But I know she knows.
I'll like people. We all learn that lesson, I think.
We talk about like 4 times in I know, I was like, I'm really tired. If you don't show up, then we're just rescheduled. Yeah, a couple times ago. That's to avoid it. Yeah. Michelle does all the calendars, so sometimes I'm okay, my career. And sometimes it's after the yeah. Like, oh yeah, it's on my list. I'm like, great. Could be one thing.
Jan, are you ready? Okay. It is just past 6:30 on Tuesday, November 5th, and we welcome everybody to a regular meeting of the Arapahoe County Planning Commission at a very special location. And we do have the entire board here today, so we have a quorum. And our first item of business is approval of the minutes from the October 15th, 2019 meeting. And I understand in the packets that were mailed, the date of the meeting might have been in error. So what we were given tonight is the corrected version. The meeting was on October 15th, so we just want to make sure that the record is clear on the date of the meeting. So if you have had time to consider the minutes from October 15th, I would entertain a motion, or if any changes need to be made.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the minutes from the October 15th meeting.
We have a second for the motion?
Second.
Mr. Brockelman has seconded the motion made by Mrs. Woolman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, our first item tonight is FDP 19-002, Copperleaf number 13, Service First Auto at Copperleaf, the FDP. And Kat Hammer will represent the county.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kat Hammer with the Planning Division. I want to start out by saying this case has been posted for at least 15 days prior to today's meeting. Mailing notice was sent to adjacent property owners, and the case was noticed in the October 17th edition of the Villager. The Planning Commission has jurisdiction to make recommendation to the board on this case. The Copperleaf 13 Service First Auto Development Final Development Plan is located southeast of the intersection of East Quincy Avenue and Piccadilly Street. This is located in Commissioner District Number 3. Adjacent uses include commercial, the Maverick gas station, attached single-family residences, and commercial to the west. Cross Verde Development, the applicant and Copperleaf commercial investors are proposing a Service First Automotive. The final development plan includes construction of just over 10,000 square foot single-story automotive repair facility with 13 bays, associated parking, sidewalk, and landscaping. There is an administrative replat being undergoing concurrent review. As part of the approval for the FDP, staff is recommending a condition of approval that the administrative replat be approved as well. As part of this approval, the applicant is requesting a parking reduction per the Land Development Code. The Land Development Code permits the Planning Division Manager to allow a reduction up to 10% of what is required. The applicant is requesting a 4% reduction from what is required. The applicant is proposing 51 parking spaces rather than the 52 that are proposed, or required, pardon me. And the applicant has indicated that Service First operation stresses the importance of vehicles being parked in the bay. So the applicant is proposing to use the 13 bays as parking spaces as well. So with the 51 proposed and the 13 parking bays, the total parking count is 64 rather than the required 52. Staff is in support of that proposal. The applicant is also requesting deviation from the lighting requirements of the Land Development Code. The applicant is requesting that the foot candles at the lot line exceed 0.3 foot candles, but they are ensuring that across from the tract that there will be 0 foot candles, which is adjacent to the residential property. Staff is also in support of that request, and I believe the applicant will touch more on that if you have any questions. This is also consistent with what has been done in the adjacent properties to light the pedestrian walkways. Staff's review of this application included comparison of the applicable policies and goals outlined in the comprehensive plan, review of the pertinent zoning regulations, local background activity, and analysis of referral comments. And staff is recommending approval of this FDP with the 5 conditions stated in your packet. I stand for any questions, and Jeff Weeder, representing the applicant, also has a short presentation.
Are there any questions at this time? Okay, we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening to the Arapahoe County staff and commission members that are in attendance tonight. We always appreciate the opportunity to have a little presentation in front of you, especially when the staff report recommends for approval of the project. It's always a little easier. Ms. Hammer did a great job in her staff report, if you read it, and very complete. So only a couple of things we want to just highlight.
You identify yourself.
I'm sorry, I'm Jeff
Name and
Weeder.
address, please.
Jeff Weeder with Galloway. We're at 6162 South Willow Drive. That's in Greenwood Village, 80111.
Thank you.
So we're going to look at, all I want to do is add a little bit of context here. If you can see in the green is the proposed lot, or in this case right now it's 2 lots, going with the replat to combine those 2 lots together. The Maverick gas station to our east, and we've got Starbucks adjacent to the Maverick. To the north is an Aurora property. I think there's Taco Bell and some future applications that are going in there, as well as commercial uses. The northwest corner, catty corner across Quincy and Piccadilly, is the old neighborhood market that's out there for Tallgrass, and I believe all the corner is fully developed now as well. The aerial's a little old. And then directly to our west there is a commercial application that's in review for SDP into the county right now. Within Copperleaf. It's another set of commercial development. We're proposing no access taken from the public roadways. We're only taking access from the tract on the south side of the property that's existing. That tract is, it's about 30-foot wide roadway that's existing. Also like to touch briefly on, just to show you the pedestrian connectivity within the site. On the Piccadilly frontage and the Quincy frontage in green, you see there a little bit of a muted green color is the existing sidewalks, as well as the southeast corner there on Maverick property. You can maybe make out the little bit of green sidewalk that's existing there as well. Service First is going to construct the orange sidewalk that you see on the southern side of the property there. That will provide pedestrian connectivity through and to Maverick from Piccadilly. The blue you see there is just signifying the pedestrian and accessible route for the ADA parking to the front door of the facility, as well as from the front door to the Piccadilly frontage there. What's significant is that southern sidewalk there. We talked about it, or Ms. Hammer talked about it briefly in her staff report, is the request for the variance to the lighting levels. And what you can see there in the light blue is the tract. You can see the fence line being labeled, and you can see how what we're trying to do is provide some safety lighting to the pedestrians crossing the site on that southern side, as well as provide Service First employees a little bit of safe lighting in and around their trash enclosure there as well. As you see, the light levels die down pretty quickly. You hit that fence line, they're at 0.1 maximum right at that fence line. We don't model the fence line, so the fence line will actually dim that foot candle even more as you go into the residential property and you head south. But you can see that the intention here is to be safe, provide a nice safe pedestrian access from Piccadilly all the way across the site to Maverick. Something to note is both southern site lights that are there, one adjacent to the trash enclosure and one that's on the western end of the parking lot. Those are both provided with the house side shield. Again, it's a little shield on the back side of the light trying to reduce the glare to the neighbors to our south. Okay, Service First sees that they're adjacent to a bunch of citizens that could possibly provide them with benefit of business, so they want to be good neighbors. Really, that's all we had. Happy to entertain any questions if you'd like.
I do have a question regarding the distance from the fence line for the residences and the back of the Service First property. What is the distance?
So what you have is about a 30-foot drive, and it looks like you got about 10 to 12 feet between the southern edge of the drive to the fence line. So that you got about 42 feet from the fence line to the northern curb line in the drive, and then another about 12 feet to the southern edge of the building. The southern edge of the building that you see there does not have any bays in it, right? So it's just the southern facade of the building, no bays, no vehicles going in and out at that location.
Are the back of the bays closed? I mean, how much noise is generated from operating the facility?
Service First has found not much. Service First's business caters to a higher end. What we'll see when we get to come in with building plans is the interior of the house has what they like to market as a higher end feel to it. They've got iPads in there for their customers. They got a little play place for kids, if parents are waiting with their children. So it's really about the customer experience. Part of that customer experience is getting their vehicles in and off the site and closing the doors in and out of the elements, right? Again, being a good neighbor. So they're not out clanging on cars in the parking lot. It's all happened inside the bays.
Yeah, and I was concerned how much noise emanate from the bays because there's going to be, I think that they were townhouses. I don't really remember if they were townhouses that KB Homes was going to be, paired homes that were going to be built there. I don't think, has anything been constructed there yet? Probably not.
Yeah.
No, because they're still in process. So that's my concern, obviously. Not only the lighting so that you don't have lighting going into, people's bedroom windows. Also, I realize, during the day, people may not be as sensitive to noise unless someone works at at night and sleeps during the day. Thus my questions.
I have a question. So what are your hours of operation kind of along that same line?
Their typical hours of operation wouldn't go any later than 10 p.m. I mean, that's what they would like to reserve the right to operate, but you can imagine that they'd be there till 8, They're not a 24-hour operation.
Thank you.
Do you have any other lighting on the south side of that building? Any signage or anything that's going to be facing towards the south that'll be shining towards the homes?
There's a small safety light right here. You can see with an S designation, and that's just again to keep that nice light level along the sidewalk. That's the only light that's facing that. It's a downcast light.
There's no first service or service first automotive sign facing that way?
No. If you were to see, let's see, does this one show it? Okay, yeah. So right along this face, there's some, really operates like a directional lighting. It labels the bays as 1, 2, 3 for the customers, but that's the nearest set of signs that would be facing south towards the residence.
I noticed that you are proposing an 80-foot flagpole, 80
Yep.
foot high. Where is that going to go?
That is, let's see if I can you see the green dot right in that little nook next to the the accessible pathway there up in the northwest corner of the site. It's nudged up in back of, there's some landscaping that's just off property as well as the existing curvilinear copperleaf main identification sign that's out there. So it's pushed up to the northwest of the site.
I mean, is there anything else out there that is 80 foot tall?
Honestly, I don't know. The landscaping is quite mature, but I don't know how tall it is.
That's a tall flagpole.
It is a tall flagpole. Service First comes from Texas. Very, very proud.
So what flags will be on the pole?
Just an American flag.
Okay.
Any other questions?
There are property owners on the opposite side of, I believe it's Quincy. Were they noticed? How much public, I mean, I know you posted the public notice, but were there mailings to any of, adjacent property owners or, I mean, even builders that are in the process of, developing that land? So I was curious how much outreach there was, considering that whole area is under development right now.
So, and Ms. Hammer can correct me if I'm wrong, but the code requires that adjacent property owners be notified. So anything that touches the limits of the site were notified. You can see that when this area was taken, the southern residence here, you can see is under construction. So anything that was even to that property line was noticed here, as well as all of these property owners that are adjacent they were all noticed via mail.
Right, and there were no comments that you guys received?
We didn't receive any, and as of about 1 p.m. this afternoon, I don't think.
I mean, frankly, I'm surprised. I mean, recognizing that there's just a lot of construction activity right now and the property is still being developed, I'm still surprised that no one, kind of responded to anything. I don't know whether because there's a Marathon service station, adjacent, people are like, but still, there's residential properties that are going to be developed that, I would think would have some kind of comment, but yet none commented. So I'm a little surprised about that. That's an editorial statement. I don't really expect you to respond to that.
We were ready. We were prepared.
I do have one question. I was looking at, the notices that were sent out in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They had some comments. Like, did you take those? It says that you're aware of those comments. So do you know what the construction will involve? So you know whether or not you need to loop the Army Corps of Engineers in for permitting purposes?
Yeah, their comments were centered around wet areas,
Yes.
areas of dredge, right? And on this site, there are no wet areas. There's a sedimentation pond that was planned as part of the overall development for during its construction. And as the overall development has built out, that sediment pond really serves no use anymore. It's dry.
Okay.
So yeah, it was standard boilerplate language from the Army.
Because I know that it's not too terribly far from the no-name, creek area, and I didn't know whether that impacted their, concern that they expressed here. So that's thus my question.
No, we don't have their boilerplate language and comment didn't affect how we plan to construct or any issues with our construction.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
You.
Okay, at this point, we will open the public hearing. If anybody wishes to make a comment on the Servers First Auto application. Seeing nobody coming forward, we will close the public hearing and bring it back. Kat, do you have any other further comments? Okay. Bring it back to the Planning Commission for consideration. Mrs. Latsis.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion.
Very good.
In the case of FDP 19-002, Copperleaf 13, Service First Auto Final Development Plan, I reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment as presented at the hearing, and hereby move to recommend approval of this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the conditions 1 through 5.
Do we have a second for the motion?
I second.
Very good. We have Mrs. Woolman has seconded the motion made by Mrs. Latsis. Any other comments? So we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 2 is LE 19-003, Temporary Sky Ranch Irrigation Center Location and Extent on Haysmont Road and 6th Avenue.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Kelsey Dombrowski with the Planning Division. The case before you is LE 19-003, a location and extent for the Temporary Sky Ranch Irrigation Center. The county attorney reviewed the public notice and has determined that the applicant has met all of the notice requirements, establishing jurisdiction for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation. To approve or deny this case. The applicant is Rangeview Metro District, and the subject property is located on the southwest corner of North Haysmont Road and East 6th Avenue and is currently zoned mixed use. The applicant is proposing a temporary irrigation center to be located adjacent to an existing water storage pond, and the project consists of a pump station, pipeline, and water storage pond that will provide storage for reclaimed wastewater from Rangeview Sky Ranch Wastewater Reclamation Facility. Reclaimed water will be stored in the pond during the winter and will be used for irrigation of parks and open space during the summer. The overall disturbance footprint will be within a 4.8 acre easement on an overall 311 acre parcel owned by PCY Holdings LLC. The facility will be temporary and will be removed prior to development in the area. And at that time, the storage pond and its access road will be removed, and the detention pond shown in Neighborhood E of the Sky Ranch General Development Plan will be installed. Staff recommends approval of this case based on the findings in the staff report and subject to the condition of approval. I'm available to answer any questions, but the applicant is also here with a presentation and more information, and we'll answer your questions as well.
Any questions right now? And we'll have the applicant come forward.
Sure.
All right. For the introduction, good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Brent Brilliard. Let me go back to the title slide real quick. Fine, we'll start there. I'm an engineer with Pure Cycle, located at 34501 East Quincy Avenue, building 34, and that's in Watkins. Tonight I'm representing the applicant, again, Rangeview Metro District, and we'll be presenting their location and extent application for the temporary Sky Ranch Irrigation Center project. The purpose, again, of this project is to store reclaimed water in the winter and then provide Rangeview the ability to store that water and then utilize it for irrigation of parks and open space in the Sky Ranch development in the summer. Rangeview, one of their big goals is to reuse water as much as possible and to reuse that water to extinction. So this project allows them to expand that goal in the Sky Ranch portion of their service area. There'll be 3 different constructed facilities in association with the irrigation center, a buried pipeline, a pump station, and a new storage pond, indicated by the items and the purple items in the image to the right. The proposed pond is located adjacent to an existing water storage pond here, and then 4 oil and gas pad sites. It'll be about 1.3 acres surface area acres. And have the ability to store about 15 acre-feet of reclaimed water. Unfortunately, right now, how the state views reclaimed water, we can use it for irrigation, but oil and gas is not an approved use, so we can't commingle our reclaimed water in this existing water storage pond, so that's why we're here tonight presenting this new project to install a new pond for reclaimed water specifically. The pump station will look very similar to an existing well control facility located in this industrial area here. That building is shown right here. It'll have a slightly larger footprint, but still small, 14 by 18 feet. And then Rangeview will have to install 1,500 feet of buried pipeline to connect the pond, the pump station, to the existing reclaimed water lines in the Sky Ranch development. It'll be built on 4.8 acres owned by PCY Holdings, and then Rangeview will obtain an easement for those 4.8 acres to construct, operate, and maintain the facilities. Here's an image of the overall Sky Ranch development. You can see filing 1, which is currently under construction, and the remaining 5 quarter sections of Sky Ranch filing 2, which is going through the GDP process with the Arapahoe County staff right now. The irrigation center is located just on this eastern corner, about a mile south of I-70. So you can access it on this existing diagonal dirt road and then turning east on 6th Avenue. Give you a real quick just briefing on how the water system at Sky Ranch operates, because that ties into the irrigation center. But potable water originates at the water treatment facility here. That potable water is transmitted through transmission pipelines to smaller distribution piping, and then the potable water is taken to each individual house. At that point, the residents can use it however they wish, like all of you in your houses, for bathing, cooking, cleaning, anything in the house then goes down the drain, and we title it wastewater. It'll enter the sewer system shown here in green, and then gravity flow down to the newly constructed water reclamation facility. At that point, the wastewater is treated, the organic matter is decomposed, it's filtered, disinfected with chlorine, and is deemed safe for human contact. So we can reuse that potable water a second time then for irrigation of parks and open space. So we'll pump it from the reclaimed water facility through our reclaimed water lines to parks and open space, where we'll water grass and other plantings with pop-up irrigation heads or drip irrigation systems. Any excess water, particularly in the winter, will then flow to the newly constructed irrigation pond. It will be stored throughout the winter, and then as temperatures rise and we need that irrigation demand, Rangeview can pump the reclaimed water back to parks and open space. I've only shown reclaimed water lines in filing 1. Once the GDP process is approved for Sky Ranch filing 2, Rangeview will design and construct pipelines in these 5 quarter sections as well at that time. So this reclaimed water facility of the irrigation center will be able to supply the entire project with reclaimed water. The last slide just deals with the time frame associated with this project. Kelsey kind of went over that briefly at the end of her summary, but the title was on the first slide, Temporary Sky Ranch Irrigation Center, and that's because once development occurs in this blue area, we'll have to remove the pond and place a detention basin there, which will be used to capture all the storm water. Everything in yellow currently flows west into First Creek here, and everything in blue, you can't change the historical path of precipitation. Everything in blue flows east into Box Elder Creek. So once the developer starts to develop this area, 8 to 10 years down the road, it depends on growth in this area and the time frame there. But that pond will be slightly reshaped and will become that detention pond for that region. With that, that just ends my presentation. I'd like to thank all of you for your time. Rangeview wants to note that they're excited about expanding water and wastewater facilities in Arapahoe County. We have a couple other projects specifically for renewable water and reusable water that we're hoping to have in front of you in the next year or so. We also want to thank Arapahoe County staff, Sue and Kelsey, for their help with this LNE application, and I can take any questions that you have.
Your easement that you have right now, is that a perpetual easement or is it okay?
Yeah, it will be perpetual. Nothing too complicated there. Rangeview always has easements associated with PCY Holdings for the Sky Ranch property. They have easements elsewhere, and it's typically for further infrastructure for all three, just to access them, to construct them and everything.
Right. The reason why I ask, of course, is because I know that this is characterized as a temporary structure, so I didn't know whether it was time limited, dependent upon the development down the line.
When the easement or when the project ends associated with the pond, Rangeview will probably remove the easement and free that up for PCY Holdings and the Sky Ranch Cab, which is the developer.
Right. Thank you.
Yep.
Will the pump stations and the small buildings will those remain if you reconfigure the
thanks
pond?
for clarifying. I forgot to mention that. So we will try to let Rangeview or try to have both the pipeline and the pump station be repurposed in some fashion, but it'll depend on the final utility plan in that area. I'm sure the pipeline will be able to be reused because we will have reclaimed water going to the open space in that blue region on that map. And I know that it's outside of the roadway, so I'm sure that it should be reused, but that's, again, 8-10 years down the road, so it's hard to speak to now.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We will open the public hearing for the temporary Sky Ranch Irrigation Center, LE 19-003, location and extent. If anybody is here and wishes to speak. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for consideration unless there are any other questions. None.
Madam Chair,
Mrs. Woolman.
I'd like to make a motion. In the case of LE 19-003, temporary Sky Ranch Irrigation Center location and extent, I have reviewed the staff report including all exhibits and attachments and have listened to the applicant's presentation and any public comment as presented at the hearing and hereby move to approve this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the sole condition noted.
Do we have a second for the motion?
So moved.
Very good. Mr. Bockelman has seconded the motion made by Mrs. Woolman. Any other comments or questions? We will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That comes to the end of our agenda for the evening, unless there's a surprise. Okay.
Thank you all for being here and for making a long